Life will change whether you want it or not. Change can happen unexpectedly, like plans suddenly being cancelled. Things that are basically outside of our own control. The sudden changes that are outside of our control is not the thing that we should be focusing on, but it's our reaction to those changes that is very important. Just like saying how you cannot control others and what people say, but you can only control yourself and how you respond to others. Okay, so how does that all link to adaptability? Well, being adaptable refers to not allowing changes, challenges, or surprises to throw you off completely. Now, I'm not a surfer, but it's kind of like when you're surfing and you're not letting the waves of the sea and the ocean to knock you off. That's how being adaptable seems like. And with adaptability, there are different types of adaptability. Would you have guessed? Which I'm going to bring to light, and I'm going to give you an overview as to the different types of adaptability, which are just 4, so not too many. 4 is a nice number. So we have cognitive adaptability, emotional adaptability, behavioural adaptability, and social adaptability. So we're going to start off with cognitive adaptability. So cognition is all about the mind, is all about the brain. It's about your ability to change your perspective and approach when sudden circumstances come to light. And is most beneficial in fast-paced environments like in a hospital, for instance, or in a workplace, I'd say. But it can be applicable to any sort of situation. Cognitive adaptability avoids that mental stuckness that keeps you fixed in a place like a locked room, even when what you're doing is not working anymore. There's actually a really good analogy that I like to think about when it comes to cognitive adaptability and trying to understand it better. And that's from a self-help book that I read, I think a year ago actually, called Who Moved My Cheese? And it's about 2 mice and 2 little humans, 2 little people, living in a maze searching for cheese. I did a more detailed video about it and what you can learn from it, so you can go and check it out. But I'll give you a brief summary as to what the book is about. So every day, the mice and the 2 little people will go to the same spot for their glorious cheese. Until one day, there was no more cheese at that same spot. The cheese was gone. And the mice quickly started to explore through the maze to find new cheese. But the little people, they were in denial. They were like, I'm not going to do that. The cheese is going to somehow magically come back. So they consistently went to the same spot every single day. And would you guess? There was still no cheese at that same spot. And they became frustrated, annoyed, and very confused because they believed that the cheese was going to magically show up. And it didn't show up. While the mice, they went to look for some cheese and they found more cheese, if not better cheese than they had before. And cognitive adaptability is being those mice, which is to realize the change in the current situation. Let's go of the old plan and actively look for new solutions. It's about shifting your thinking when you realize your old current ways are no longer effective. Now we're going to talk about emotional adaptability. Emotional adaptability is about being able to control your feelings when things don't go your way. It's not about avoiding your feelings or having to force yourself to stay strong, which I know is easier said than done. And it can be especially a bit more complicated from a cultural perspective. As a Black woman myself, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there is an unspoken expectation to always be strong and resilient in emotionally tough situations and to push through without showing vulnerability. But that is emotionally and mentally exhausting. So emotional adaptability is not about pretending that everything is fine and pretending to be happy all the time. You are allowing yourself to feel what you feel, but it's also about being able to think clearly and make decisions with a clearer mind without letting our emotions to completely take over. It's about thinking with your head and your heart together as a team. And I also know that is way easier said than done, especially when you're stressed, upset, or even excited or ecstatic. Those emotions take the driver's seat, while your head, the logical thinking, is taking a back seat. And if there is something that I've learned when handling our emotions, it is to take a pause. Something that is so simple that it literally takes a minute to do, if not seconds to do. And we see this in real life, like in a live performance or if someone's doing a big speech. People will pace up and down backstage, shake off their arms, shake off their legs, everywhere, their hairs, their whole body, just to get rid of that adrenaline. And that's similar to when we take a pause and spend some time shaking it off, releasing all of those overflowing emotions. Behavioural adaptability is changing the way you act, speak, and make decisions due to different circumstances, such as with different people, environments, and situations, while also staying true to yourself, so staying true to your core values and beliefs. So in simpler terms, I kind of see it as being able to read the room. Now hear me out. It's kind of like being a DJ. You have to read the crowd, feel the vibes, and change up the tracks to keep the energy up in the club or in a party. Imagine being a teacher or a tutor, for instance, teaching a group of young aspiring students. And then you notice that your students are struggling in the lesson. And I don't know about you, but you would probably change up your teaching style in a way that the students will understand whatever content you are teaching the lesson. And that can be by breaking it down into simple explanations, speaking slower so that the students can catch up. So basically, adapting your communication. And that's an example of behavioural adaptability. Social adaptability is very similar to behavioural adaptability, but it focuses within the social context, such as how you adapt with different people, different groups of people and culture. Something that I would say is very important in the workplace environment, because you will meet different types of people from different walks of life. So we must be able to adapt our approach appropriately to build positive and good relationships. And by the way, social adaptability is not about being fake or putting on a completely different personality. It's not the same as fake it till you make it. Instead, you are selectively choosing which part of your authentic real self to put forward so that you can connect better in that particular moment. Body language, tone of speech, and being able to read a room are very important. And the thing is that adaptability is not something that you are born with. And now let's briefly touch on a bit of science. Neuroplasticity is when your brain is able to change, adapt, and reorganize itself by forming new connections between the neurons, which are the cells that are in your brain. See it as your brain's way of learning. Kind of like when we talk about muscle memory in a way. Like when we say, the more you practice, the better you'll be at it. And the more you practice adaptability and being adaptable in how you think, feel, act, and connect, the better your brain gets at doing it automatically. Thank you.